Hello,
Hi,
how are you today?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm very well. Mhm. Okay, the coherence and cohesion.
Yes.
Okay, what do you understand by coherence and cohesion?
Mm, honestly, I don't know much about it, but I just listen that it's an important part for the fluency and for advanced speaker and writers as well.
Yes, yeah, it's 25% of the marks in IELTS.
I,
Yeah. Let
if
me.
you provide some stuff regarding cohesion and coherence, I'll be happy and explain also.
Yep. Let me bring it up on the screen. Okay. Okay. Can you see that? Do you want me to make it bigger?
Make it little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm. 1 second. Is that better? Or
Yeah.
I have to share it again, probably.
I can see now.
Okay. So coherence is making it logical and sequenced. Yeah. So it starts off and it logically goes through to an end or a conclusion or summary. It's mainly used in writing, or if you're writing for IELTS, for example, part 2, then it would be to structure your writing. Okay, so the normal thing is that you would have an introduction. You would have something called a thesis statement, which gives your overall view of your answer, what you were going to write about in the whole essay.
Okay.
In that one, you don't include details or examples in the introduction. It's more of a general part in the introduction. And then when you have the body part of an essay for your writing, you'd have one paragraph, the first paragraph, the second paragraph, maybe a third, but generally 2 paragraphs. And then a conclusion or a summary at the end, depends what the question is.
Okay.
Okay.
You're saying that it's important in writing. What about speaking? Is
Yeah,
it
it's also in
important?
speaking. Yeah, it's also in speaking. Less so if you were doing IELTS. Part 2, for example, you have to speak for 2 minutes. So, and there's some information that you have to include. It is good if you can make it coherent and definitely cohesive. But if you start saying something, then you go on and then you say, "Oh, by the way, I forgot this when I was talking about this," then it's disjointed. Then it's like going up and down. You want to make it as logical as possible, really.
Okay. Can you give me example of it?
Yeah, well, it'd be really mainly if you're answering a question, like let me see. Some people think that going to university is important, whereas other people think that leaving school and then getting a job and experience is equally as important.
So,
So
you used whereas.
yeah, this is just an example of a question. So if you said, if the thing that you had to write about or speak about was that some people think that going to university gives you a better career, whereas other people think that leaving school and getting experience is equally important. Okay, so in that one, you would decide which view you took, whether you think university is more important or whether you think leaving school and getting a job is more important. So your thesis statement would be your view of the answer. Okay. It would set the overall tone of the answer, that you favor one side instead of the other argument. And you wouldn't include specific details in your introduction. And then in 2 paragraphs for writing, for example, you would take 2 examples, or you would compare the university, going to university, and then getting a job immediately. But more likely you would pick a particular example. So it's good to speak in general terms, but you also want to give examples so that you can include vocabulary in answers.
Yes, I want examples.
Yeah. Yeah, so example, if I had the university one, going to university is usually more advantageous because you can start higher up the career ladder when you leave, because you have qualifications and you should have more knowledge. Yeah. So you should start at a higher salary than if you leave school with basic qualifications and then get a job. Okay. You would also use things like complex sentences. Although going to university means that you have 3 or 4 years without a salary, when you do eventually leave, you will have a higher salary when you find a job. Okay, so you can link, you can have
so although even if these words are, means we can use it as a to make the sentence of coherence.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it is coherence, because well, it's more cohesion in that case, because you are linking 2 sentences together.
Okay, and what about linking words? Linking words, coherence and cohesion, are those same?
No, coherence is like the structure, the logical and sequence part of it. So you can see there under coherence, I've got logical and sequenced. So it's like a flow chart almost, the coherence. And then if I go down to the cohesion is like glue, really. It sticks things together. See that? Yeah.
All these words are in linking as well. I have seen some stuff of linking. So
yes.
I found additional, in addition, furthermore, nevertheless, however, all these are there.
Yes. So cohesion is like connecting things together. So additionally references the previous sentence. So you say or write one sentence, and then you say additionally or in addition or furthermore to link back to the previous sentence.
Okay.
These ones are usually used at the start of a new sentence and followed by a comma if you're writing. Yeah, we don't usually add them on to the end of a sentence.
Okay, it's in between.
Yeah, you have a full stop and then you start a new sentence with additionally, in addition, furthermore.
Okay.
Okay. You can combine the sentences, so you have the complex sentences, even though, even if.
We cannot use it in compound sentence. We can use it only in complex. Am I right?
Yeah, they are complex sentences because they are dependent and independent clauses.
Yes, because with those words, it will be independent clause. It will, dependent clause.
Yes.
Means to make the sense out of that sentence, some other sentence is needed.
Yes, an independent clause is needed. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, also not only, but also you can use to link things together. It's instead of saying and or but, you say not only da da da, but also this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have a series of short sentences that are not connected. Yeah. So you want to connect them together. If you were doing an exam, you wouldn't want to use these for every sentence, because then it sounds unnatural.
Okay.
And also
it's overused.
Yeah, it's also when you're speaking. You wouldn't say, oh yes, I like going to Europe on holiday. Furthermore, blah, blah, blah. Nevertheless, da, da, da. So you wouldn't do it on every sentence because it sounds unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let me
Means
scroll.
we should use it like a pinch of salt.
Yeah, it's everything. They should be used appropriately. So
Okay.
let me move those down. I'll do these. One second. Also, to avoid choose the right one there. To avoid repetition, you should use pronouns. A lot of people
generally we do.
Yeah, a lot of people when they're speaking or writing, they repeat the words all the time without using the pronouns.
Okay.
So instead of saying that, I went to a fantastic restaurant the other day. The restaurant was in the city centre. I have been to this restaurant several times. It's one of my favourite restaurants.
Means one should say it was a wonderful restaurant, or
Yeah,
kind
or
of it is
this.
appropriate.
Yeah, or just this.
Appropriate
Yes.
pronoun.
This is one of my favorite restaurants. Yeah, you can say it without mention. Yeah, or this is one of my favorites. You can say, and you don't need restaurants at all in that one. Yeah, and then
Means no need to use again a restaurant. Just this is one of my favorite. That's it.
Yeah, that's good. Yes, yeah, because you don't want to keep repeating the same word.
Yeah.
So this and that for singular, these and those for plural.
Yeah.
You also have internal linking within the sentence. So relative pronouns: who, which, where, that. Yep. Do you know what I mean in this example, using who, which, where, that?
She is my friend whose company I like the most.
Good. Yes, that's good. Yeah. So
this is the city which I lived before 10 years.
Yeah, in which I lived 10 years ago. Yes. So again, instead of having two separate sentences, you join them using the relative pronouns. You can once you use them, you can make them more like my brother who lives in London is a doctor, whereas my sister who lives in Milan is a nurse. There's a nurse. Yeah. Put that in the chat box.
My brother who lives in London is a doctor, whereas my sister who lives in Milan is a nurse. Okay.
Yeah.
So who, whereas, and again who.
Yes. Yeah, you're linking them together. You're giving additional information also. Yeah. So instead of saying my brother lives in London, he is a doctor, but my sister is a nurse. She lives in Milan. Yeah, so you're linking them together instead of giving short.
Instead of using he and she, use who.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's linking them together. It's giving.
So using he or she, is it? I think it's appropriate, but it's not advanced.
You can use he and she, but then it'll be a different sentence then. So if you use who, then it links them together in the same sentence.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Okay, if I say he lives in means I'll have to put a full stop first, and then he is a doctor means it's a different sentence. It's not a one sentence.
yes,
Am I right?
yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
You can. My brother. If you're going to do separate ones, here's a doctor. Yeah. It's better to use a semicolon.
Mm-hmm. Semicolon. Okay, but it look like it's a separate sentence.
Yes, it's not a full stop. It's linked. It's having the two together. But yeah, it's not as good as saying my brother who lives in London is a doctor.
Okay. Okay. For IELTS, I think this is first sentence is appropriate.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
In speaking also, it's not just writing. It's in speaking also. You can use it. Makes it sound more natural then.
Okay.
What do I have there? Yep. You can use that instead of which or who.
Okay.
But there's one example when you can't use it.
But I cannot say my brother that lives in London is a doctor.
Correct.
My sister.
Correct. Yes. If you have the commas, you can't use that.
Yes.
Just on that grammar point, what is the difference with my brother, comma, who lives in London, comma, and my brother who lives in London without commas?
Like we are speaking, my brother who lives in London is a doctor, whereas my sister who lives in Milan is a nurse. And without comma, like my brother who lives in London is a doctor, means no pause, nothing.
Okay, it means we're talking about the number of brothers.
Okay.
So with comma means I only have one brother.
Okay.
If you take, because between the commas it's additional information. So you say my brother is a doctor. One brother. In the last example I put, my brother who lives in London is a doctor.
Okay.
But that tells us that I have more than one brother.
Okay. It's new for me.
Okay. Yes. So yeah, the first one, my brother, comma, who lives in London is a doctor, means I only have one brother. Because between the commas, it's additional information. If you take the who lives in London out, then the sentence is my brother is a doctor. So I only have one brother. Yes. Yeah, just going back to that. So my brother who lives in London is a doctor. My brother who lives in New York is a dentist. Yeah, so I have at least two brothers. So one brother lives in London and one brother lives in New York.
Okay. And if I put comma, it means I have only one brother.
Yes, because between the commas, it's additional information. It doesn't distinguish how many brothers I have.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's important to know the difference in that one, because then whether it's additional information or whether it tells us which brother we're talking about. Okay. Where were we? Oh yes. Paragraphs. Going back to the other one. Paragraphs. You have if you're writing, you have a topic sentence, which introduces the main idea of the paragraph. tells the reader, or the examiner, what it is about. So the examiner or the reader should be able to read the first two sentences of a paragraph and know what the rest of the paragraph is about. Okay? And then you can include in the rest of the paragraph explanations, examples, evidence. You can go into details in that one. So going into details gives you a chance to use vocabulary then.
For IELTS exam, I think advanced vocabulary is important.
Yes. Yeah, vocabulary again is 25% of the mark.
When you British people speak with simple or basic vocabulary on daily basis, then why this criteria is in IELTS to use advanced vocabulary?
I'm not a big fan of IELTS. I don't think it's a very good test of English.
Okay.
Because, as you say, it's often unrealistic. It's not how native speakers speak. Most of us use quite basic vocabulary in everyday conversations.
Okay.
IELTS in the academic one is mainly used for people going to university. So they will do academic writing when they're at university. In the UK, they used to use IELTS for nurses. They used to use IELTS academic, I think it was, for nurses or medical staff.
Okay.
And then they found that they were getting low marks, so they didn't get the marks that they wanted. And then they changed it to an exam which is focused on medical vocabulary. Because if you're taking IELTS and the reading questions or the writing questions are about the environment, it has nothing to do with working in a hospital. So.
Yes,
it's completely irrelevant.
And what about general? Because I think for academics, students are going there to study. I can understand that they may need it. But what about general?
General is usually used for immigration when people are going to another country.
Yeah, they go there, they live with the native speakers, and native speakers are speaking basic vocabulary, simple vocabulary, and IELTS speakers, they'll use advanced vocabulary. It doesn't make sense.
No, but then the writing is slightly different in IELTS for general, but the speaking is the same. The listening is the same. So they still need relatively high levels of vocabulary. Yeah, it depends what they go in there for. But if it's just basic English level, again, some countries just ask for it because I don't think they know any better. Sometimes they think, oh yeah, everyone asks for IELTS, we'll use IELTS as well.
Okay.
But I've had a lot of my students who have taken IELTS, they have got higher scores than what I consider their language level to be.
Okay. What is their scores, your students?
It depends on the student because like some of them had 8. I've never really had advanced students because often they don't need IELTS or they take another exam. If they're advanced, they don't always take IELTS. They would choose another one like TOEFL if they're going to America.
Okay, what is difference between a C2 fluency level exam is there of British Council and IELTS? So what is the difference between these two exams?
I'm not sure whether I've never done British Council exams. I don't know if they actually have C2 exams. They may do.
C2 level exam is there. I think it's for fluency C1 or C2 level.
Yeah, I've done Cambridge exams, C2, C1, C2. Yeah, most of them are Cambridge.
Okay. What is difference between Cambridge? Maybe it may be similar. So what is difference between IELTS and Cambridge C1, C2 level?
IELTS is more specific in what they ask for. There are particular things that they are marked on. So Cambridge is, say, more general. It's more of a general test. Cambridge exams also have more specific grammar questions, whereas IELTS doesn't. It doesn't have any grammar questions at all. Also, in Cambridge exams, you have to change the form of words to match what the space in an article. You have to know. You might have to change a noun to a verb or an adjective. So Cambridge tends to have more tests on actual accuracy of grammar and vocabulary.
Okay.
Whereas IELTS doesn't test any of that. It's they are split into, like grammar, for example. You have to be accurate, but it's more the range of grammar. In IELTS, there are specific things that you look for, like the complex sentences that I mentioned.
But even in IELTS, they are not testing us on grammar, but in spoken or in writing, if a student make mistakes, grammatical mistakes, they may not get full marks. So
no.
Indirectly, they give importance to grammar as well.
Yes, it is, because if you make mistakes, then your band score goes down because you're consistently making mistakes. But what I mean in Cambridge is there are questions where it's yes, this answer is correct or it's incorrect. It's more of a scientific one in a lot of the parts of the Cambridge ones.
What is structure of Cambridge C1, C2 level exam?
They have again, it's word transformations. I will.
Is there a reading, writing, speaking, and listening, or just writing?
No,
speaking?
The full skills they test.
Means all like IELTS, they test on all four skills.
Yes, yeah. It's just the format of the exam is different. Yeah, IELTS it doesn't specifically have grammar accuracy questions. The grammar for IELTS is on the level of grammar, how many mistakes you make, if you consistently make mistakes. So
IELTS is for migration and for the studies in English-speaking countries, and C1 or C2 level exams, Cambridge and I think British Council exams. What is the purpose of those exams?
It's a good question, because generally universities or other institutions ask for IELTS or TOEFL in America. The ones that have taken C1, sometimes it might be for work where they just need a qualification. Yeah. Sometimes it's the student taking it, if they have a choice, they would prefer a more like a test of grammar or a test of vocabulary rather than a more general thing like IELTS. Maybe it's and again, TOEFL is very short on time. You have to speak to a computer. So sometimes students choose it because of the format of the exam. But they're not. I can't actually remember anywhere that specifically asks for Cambridge exams. Not usually, not for university. It's always IELTS, TOEFL.
Okay, then why people give that exam?
Sometimes it's just because they want to test their level. They want an exam. Sometimes, yeah.
Just for fluency. I mean, non-native speakers give that exam and to test.
They can do, yeah. We will have to finish because we have 15 seconds, but. Yeah.
Yes.
But, if you have any questions, you can send them in the message box. But
if you have some stuff regarding cohesion and coherence, please.
Okay, I'll send you this file also. Yeah. Okay. Bye bye for now. Bye bye.
Okay. Apart from that, if you have, please send.